The story begins in 1964 at the New York World's Fair, where we meet a young, inventive boy named Frank Walker. Frank has built a jetpack and he proudly takes it to present to David Nix, hoping to impress him. David, however, dismisses Frank's creation, asking, "Does it actually work?" Frank admits it does, but not perfectly. Disheartened, Frank sits outside, only to be approached by a girl named Athena, who is intrigued by his creation. She hands him a special pin and says, "Follow me." Curious, Frank asks, "Who are you?" To which Athena replies, "I am the future." Following her lead, Frank gets into a boat that takes him into a tunnel where a laser scans his pin, the one given to him by Athena. Suddenly, a gate opens, leading him down to what appears to be a strange, mysterious room. But Frank soon realizes that this room is actually a high-tech elevator, which takes him to a new world. As he steps out, two robots appear, scanning him and examining his jetpack. The robots quickly fix any issues with his jetpack, and just then, two people notice Frank. Startled, he accidentally falls and begins plummeting down. In a rush, Frank manages to grab his jetpack, starting it just in time to save himself from crashing to the ground. Frank approaches Athena, who reveals that this extraordinary place is called Tomorrowland. Years pass, and Frank, now much older, has spent most of his life here. Fast forward to 2015, where we meet a young girl named Casey on Earth. Casey's father, a NASA engineer, faces losing his job, so she takes matters into her own hands, repeatedly sabotaging NASA's launch program to keep it from closing. However, during one of her attempts, Casey is caught and arrested. The following day, as she's being released, she notices a mysterious pin among her belongings, identical to the one Frank received back in 1964. When Casey touches the pin, she's instantly transported to Tomorrowland, a futuristic world unlike anything she's ever seen. Astonished, she explores this advanced place, marveling at the incredible technology around her. In Tomorrowland, she can see everyone, but no one can see her. Soon, however, the pin starts a countdown, indicating that its battery is running low. As it powers down, Casey finds herself back in her own world, left in complete shock and wonder about what she just experienced. Curious and excited, she returns home and tells her younger brother everything. Together, they begin researching the pin online. After some digging, they find an image of a similar pin along with an address. Determined to learn more, Casey heads to the location listed with her brother. This discovery shocks Casey, and when she shows the pin to the shop owners, they're equally stunned. They ask her, "Where did you get this pin?" Confused, Casey says, "I don't know." They press her further, asking, "Did you meet a little girl?" Casey, unaware, replies that she doesn't know anyone. When she can't provide answers, the shop owners suddenly turn hostile, attacking her. But just before they can harm Casey, Athena arrives, fighting off the shop owners to protect her. During the intense fight, Athena pulls off one guard's head, revealing that the shop owners are actually robots. As Athena and Casey escape the shop, one of the robots self-destructs in a blast. Quickly, Athena steals a car, getting Casey out of harm's way. It's then revealed that Athena is the same girl who gave Frank the pin back in 1964, and she hasn't aged a day, because she, too, is a robot. Athena explains to Casey, "I'm a robot. The pin you found with your belongings, I placed it there. It led you to Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland isn't a dream. It's real. My purpose is to bring people with talent and potential from Earth to Tomorrowland, where they can create new inventions and explore uncharted possibilities. You've been chosen for Tomorrowland." The next morning, Athena drops Casey off outside Frank's house and leaves. Casey approaches the house and shows Frank the pin, explaining how it took her to Tomorrowland when she touched it. Frank steps outside and tells her to go home, but Casey insists on going to Tomorrowland and sits outside his house, refusing to leave. That night, Frank notices on his security screens that a blazing bulldozer is heading toward his house. He rushes out and uses an advanced device to freeze the bulldozer in place, stopping it completely. While he's distracted, Casey sneaks into his house and locks the door behind her. Frank tells her to open the door, but she responds, "Not until you agree to take me to Tomorrowland." Inside, Casey sees many futuristic gadgets, and as she explores one room, she discovers several screens displaying images of Earth in various stages of destruction. There's also a countdown showing only 60 days left until total annihilation. Frank enters the room telling Casey to leave, but she demands, "You need to explain what's going on here. What did you do that got you kicked out of Tomorrowland?" Frank reveals, "I invented something years ago that got me expelled from Tomorrowland. What you're seeing on those monitors, the destruction of Earth, it's inevitable." Casey refuses to believe him, but her disbelief seems to affect the screens, causing the apocalyptic images to start disappearing. Seeing Casey's disbelief cause the destructive images to disappear leaves Frank completely astonished. At that moment, a team of killer robots arrives, sent to eliminate Casey. Frank acts quickly, saving her from the dangerous androids. They manage to escape in a modified bathtub that he's secretly rigged as a makeshift escape escape pod. Just as another robot attacks, the bathtub blasts off, propelling them safely out of the house, which is immediately destroyed in a fiery explosion. Their escape pod eventually crashes into a nearby lake. Moments later, Athena arrives to join them. Frank isn't pleased to see her, as he still harbors resentment from their past. When they were kids, Athena kept her robotic nature a secret from him, something that still stings. Despite his frustration, he has no choice but to go along with Athena and Casey. As they travel in a car, tension rises and they argue. Frank questions Athena, asking how Casey got the Tomorrowland pin when all the pins were supposed to have been destroyed. Athena admits she managed to save 12 pins, and the one she gave to Casey was her last. This is the reason Tomorrowland authorities are after her, determined to eliminate anyone with knowledge of their dimension. The trio heads to a location with a teleportation device capable of transporting people across vast distances. While there, Frank asks Athena why she chose Casey. Athena explains she's one of the few who hasn't given up hope. Most people on Earth have accepted the planet's impending doom, but Casey still believes in a better future. Using the teleportation device, they arrive at the top of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, where they find a hidden room containing statues of visionary inventors like Gustav Eiffel, Nikola Tesla, and Thomas Edison. Frank explains that these men, along with Jules Verne, formed a secret society called Plus Ultra, dedicated to building a future society where inventors could work without restrictions. They name this place Tomorrowland, located in another dimension. The Eiffel Tower wasn't merely built as a tourist attraction, but as an antenna for accessing Tomorrowland in emergencies. While they never needed to use it, Frank activates the tower's machinery. As the machinery hums to life, the Eiffel Tower splits into two sections, revealing a flying craft hidden within. The entire world is shocked to see the Eiffel Tower split open. The three board the flying craft, and it whisks them away to the alternate dimension known as Tomorrowland. Upon arriving in Tomorrowland, the trio is met by Governor David and his team. David is determined to send them back to Earth. Frank tries to reason with him, explaining, "I used your machine, the one that can see the future, and I saw Earth's future, filled with destruction. But when I told Casey, she didn't believe me, and at that moment, the vision of Earth's collapse began to lessen. It's as if her disbelief actually changed the outcome." David, skeptical, dismisses Frank's claims. Frank insists, urging him, "You can see it all for yourself." Confused but intrigued, David finally agrees to investigate. They lead Casey to the machine that allows them to view both the past and the future. Frank had designed it during his time in Tomorrowland. Casey, with her quick mind, begins to operate it effortlessly, and soon they're shown Earth's impending fate. Casey watches in horror as her own home appears on the screen, completely destroyed. These images are set just 60 days in the future when Earth faces total devastation. In shock, Casey refuses to believe it. She says firmly, "No, this can't be right." And at that very moment, the apocalyptic visions start to change. What had been scenes of destruction now show a world returning to balance and stability. However, David, though observing the change, refuses to believe them and has all three of them imprisoned. During this time, Casey realizes something crucial. Frank's machine, which allows them to view the past and future, has an immense energy source. This energy is being transmitted to Earth, which is why Frank can monitor everything that David sees in Tomorrowland. But it all depends on finding the right frequency. The machine continuously sends images of future devastation, leading everyone on Earth to believe that an apocalypse is unavoidable. People on Earth are paralyzed by the belief that the future is predetermined, so they're not taking any action to save the planet. Casey proposes a solution to Frank. If they can shut down this machine, the negative messages reaching Earth would cease, allowing people to start thinking positively and feel empowered to take action. They explain their idea to David, but he dismisses it, convinced that humanity is doomed by its own choices. He remarks, "Humans are determined to destroy themselves. Every day the climate is shifting, glaciers are melting, yet they do nothing. We sent these images through the machine so they could see Earth's downfall, but instead of acting, they accepted it as inevitable." Casey's insight proves to be correct. On Earth, people who might still take action to save the environment are paralyzed by the machine's messages, having already accepted that Earth's end is inevitable. David, meanwhile, is preparing to send Frank, Casey, and Athena back to Earth. As David shakes hands with Frank in a seemingly cordial farewell, Frank discreetly presses some buttons on a gadget on David's wrist, activating the portal that leads back to Earth. Suddenly, a fight breaks out between Frank and David, and in the struggle, they tumble through the portal and find themselves in a deserted area on Earth. Back in Tomorrowland, Athena hands Casey a powerful bomb. Their plan is to destroy the machine, as it can't simply be turned off. Just as they activate the bomb, a robot knocks down the platform that Casey is standing on, leaving her without a direct way to the machine. With the bomb counting down to detonation, Athena opens the portal and tosses the bomb through it, where Frank and David are still fighting. Seeing the bomb, both men race back toward the portal, trying to escape into Tomorrowland just before it detonates. Frank manages to make it through in time, but David isn't as lucky. He gets trapped under a massive metal sheet. At this moment, Athena looks into the future viewing machine and sees that David is about to shoot Frank. Acting immediately, she rushes in front of Frank, taking the bullet meant for him. Frank is saved, but Athena's systems begin to shut down. She's severely damaged and is now nearing her end. As Casey approaches David, she grabs his gun, stopping him in his tracks. Meanwhile, Frank takes Athena to a secluded spot where she opens up to him, saying, "When I first brought you to Tomorrowland, we became friends, but I felt something different with you, something my programming had never allowed before. I never wanted to tell you I was a robot because I didn't want to disappoint you." She explains how she was the only one in Tomorrowland who truly believed in him, but his discovery of her true nature broke his heart. Ready to make the ultimate sacrifice, Athena activates her self-destruction mode and asks Frank to take her up to the machine. Wearing the jetpack he designed as a child, Frank flies her up. With a massive explosion, Athena's self-destruction destroys the machine entirely, and its remains fall, crushing David below. Later, we see Casey reunited with her father and brother. Since her father is a NASA engineer, he and her brother are granted permission to live in Tomorrowland. Now, Frank and Casey become the new leaders of Tomorrowland. They begin a mission to find talented, driven individuals on Earth, just as Frank was once chosen, by sending them the Tomorrowland pin. They invite these individuals to Tomorrowland to innovate and collaborate, hoping to find solutions that will save Earth. 60 days pass, and Earth remains unharmed, proving Casey's optimism was right all along. This brings the story of Tomorrowland to a hopeful end, filled with imagination, resilience, and the belief in a better future. If you enjoyed Tomorrowland, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more exciting recaps. Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for our next adventure.